happy Friday. Today I'm going to be talking about Phase Two Phonics. Phase Two Phonics is how children are taught to read and write in reception. So if your child is starting school soon, this will be really helpful to understand how your child is taught to read and to write and how you can support at home with some fun activities. So phonics is a scheme where children learn to read by decoding words rather than learning them by sight, which may be how you were taught to read. It was how I was taught to read as well. So Phase Two Phonics has 19 different phonemes. Phonemes are the sounds that letters make, and graphemes are the written letters. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the different sounds that are in Phase Two Phonics because children use the soft sounds, the pure speech sounds. So we've got s, a, t, p, I, n, m, d, g, o, k, 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 e, o, r, b, f, ul, f, ul, s. So within these phonemes, there are also 4 digraphs. So digraphs are 2 letters that make one sound, and your child will actually be taught that terminology of it being called a digraph as well. So children will be taught to recognise these graphemes and phonemes, and some different schemes may use actions to support your child to learn them as well. So I'm just going to show you a couple of activities to support your child to recognise these letter sounds to start with. So activities in phonics are always kept exciting, engaging, quite active and multisensory as well, so that your child doesn't get bored. So my first idea is to use a little bag like this one. You might have watched us on Monday's live. I did a similar activity for Phase One Phonics. But with this one, you want to add in some different cards, some different flashcards of sounds, which can be found in the resource link that's being attached now to the comment section, as well as the sound mat. So pop a couple of those into a bag, or you could add in the different objects. It's up to you. And the idea is that you pass the bag around, like a bit like a pass the parcel, and you sing this song. Pass the bag around, pass the bag around. When the bag stops, you have to say the sound. Whoever it lands on has to pull one of the sounds out and have a go at saying what that sound is. If your child is struggling, these cards are really useful because it's got different objects at the bottom that have that initial sound at the start. So you could say, oh, it's a caterpillar. What does caterpillar start with? And they might say k, and you say, yes, that's the letter sound k. Okay. If you add in the objects, you might also want to have a range of the different graphemes around in a little circle so your child can match them together as well. Another idea, which I'm just going to show you on here, is just to use a couple of little kitchen roll tubes. You can make them into little aliens like mine, and you could add on some of the different graphemes that your child is focusing on. They could then have a go at using a little ball to knock it over, a bit like bowling, great for their fine motor skills as well. And once your child knocks one over, they can have a go at telling you what that letter sound is. They could then go on a little hunt around the house to see if they can find any things that start with that sound as well. So once your child has learned some of the phonemes, they will also be taught to read using blending. So blending is the scheme in phonics where children learn to read. So to start with, your child will be taught to read vowel consonant words, such as this one. Your child's school may use sound buttons underneath each sound. So I'm just going to model what it will look like when children use blending. So they say a sound for each of the graphemes. So it, then get a little bit quicker. It. The word is it. Eventually, once your child is confident in this, which can take a little while, it just depends on your child's oral blending and segmenting skills as well. They will move on to consonant vowel consonant words, such as this one. Again, they might have little sound buttons underneath just to encourage them to say a sound for each of the written graphemes. And then they'll do the same process. So s, it, s, it, s, it. Okay, so what was I going to say? It'll come back to me. So there's a range of different ways that you can support blending. So here's another idea. I've got some little sticky notes here, and you could get your child to move a little object along or bounce it along to say a sound for each of the written graphemes. And once they've been able to read the word, they could match it to the picture to show you they understand what that word is. That's a really important part of phonics, to ensure that they are understanding what they're reading as well. We have a interactive version of this on the Twinkle Go site. So as you can see, it's got the word at the top, the CVC word, and it's got little sound buttons underneath. And again, your child's got to select which picture it represents to show you they understand what that word means. You can also do different phases, so it depends which sounds you want to focus on with your child. So within Phase 2 Phonics and phonics itself, children are also taught to write. Children are taught to write through the process of segmenting. Segmenting is splitting down the words, the sounds that are within a word. So I'm just going to draw a very wonky rectangle here and split it into 3. You might get some picture cards or have some objects of CVC words, and then your child can have a go at breaking down the sounds that are within that word to write the word. You might do this orally first, and you might get your child to press along a bit like the sound buttons. So they might say k or k or. Your child may struggle to hear that initial sound to start with, because you might say, oh, what does cup sound start with? And they might say p, because it's the last sound that they hear. But again, practice makes perfect, and they just really need to tune in to be able to feel confident in this area. So once your child's got the first one, they can have a go at writing it in, or they could use plastic letters as well. It's completely up to you. And again, your child may struggle to hear this middle sound to start with, but you could model putting one in. So you might put that one in, get your child to blend the sounds together to check if it makes sense for that picture or the object that they've got. If it doesn't, they might say, no, it's not, it's or, and they can have a go at writing it in. Okay, so they use the known sounds that they've learnt to read and to write. Another idea for writing, which doesn't necessarily need to use a piece of paper and a pen, is through using these little cardboard tubes again that's got some graphemes on them, and they can have a go at unscrambling them to make the word make sense for the object that's being shown. That's just a great way to really tune your child into the different letters that are in the word before they then go on to write it. Alongside learning to read and write in phonics, children are taught tricky words as well. So tricky words are words that are sometimes called common exception words, and are words that do not follow the normal phonics rule. So you cannot sound them out or blend them together. So these are commonly the ones that are in Phase 2 Phonics. So we've got no, go, I, to, and the. As you can see, they're very common, and your child will come across them very often whilst they are trying to read or to write. So these ones, your child does have to learn by sight, because you can't blend them together. If you did, it would be n, or, no, so it wouldn't work. That means that you've got to do a lot of practice, just with fun little games, to support your child to recognise these words. One way you could do this is print these out from the resource that's already in the comments, and you could print 2 versions, and your child can have a go at playing Snap. You could hide them around the house for your child to find and see if they can tell you what the word says. You could even just do it whilst you're reading and point out the different key words that are important for your child to learn. And you could also have a go at sticking them to your wall or in your garden and say, oh, can you run to the word go? Or you might say, can you hop to the word the, for example. So once your child is towards the end of reception, they should be able to read and write simple sentences, such as the cat is on the mat. So you can see the common exception words are really important for that, and Phase 2 Phonics will really help. There are other phases of phonics. Usually children will learn Phase 3 Phonics in reception as well, and phonics then continues into Year 1 and Year 2, which we'll be doing some more lives on in the near future. So if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to drop them in the comment section and we'll get back to you. But let me just add that your child's school may use a different scheme, that may use different schemes and different sounds in different orders. It's just dependent on what the scheme is that they use. They might have different actions for each of the sounds as well that they learn to help make it a bit more multisensory to support their memory as well. Thank you for joining, and we will look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.